we welcome you to another episode of Learning Stories. This is a show where we profile a diverse set of learners from the 21st century. In each episode of this show, we interview a guest who has a story to share about how they acquired a set of skills and knowledge in a creative and innovative manner. In the process, we hope to uncover a new understanding of learning as conceptualized, imagined, and narrated by the guest on our show. Today's guest, Manish Khushalani, is someone I have admired for a really long time. A little bit about him before we jump into this conversation. Mumbai born and bred, NYC read and fed. That would be one or two phrases to describe Manish. But he, by profession, he is a cinematographer, a film director, and a musician. In terms of his educational training, he completed a Bachelor of Mass Media from Kishan Chilaram College in Mumbai University. And then he did the Conservatory in Cinematography at New York Film Academy in New York City. He was also awarded a very special prize, the Best Indie Filmmaker at the Etude Los Angeles Film Festival in 2020. I spent a couple of days, watching some of Manish's work, and he has shot commercials for IPL, Netflix, Prime Video, Kingfisher, Xiaomi, Redmi, PUBG, Volkswagen, Agio, Myntra, Royal Enfield, and the list goes on. He has closely worked with directors such as Rajat Kapoor, Ratna Sinha, Akash Khurana, Debbie Rao, and talents such as Dia Mirza, Sonu Sood, Ali Fazal, Manoj Pawar, Jim Sarv, to name a few. Again, it's a very long list, and I, I I want to go through all the names, but I also want to be mindful of time. As a cinematographer, awaiting the release of his debut feature, Middle Class Love, directed by Ratna Sinha and produced by Anubhav Sinha's Benares Media Works and Z Studios. The release of this debut feature by Manish is scheduled for 16 September 2022. And the good news is we're having this conversation after the release. So the film is
Yes,
already
out.
uh, it is out in theaters, and you will be able to catch it at a theater close to you in India. And if you are jumping in from abroad, it should hopefully come out soon on the digital streaming platforms too. So,
Yes.
Manish, I'm not going to do a lot of the talking. It's all going to be about
But
you.
no, I thought this was going to be a conversation.
It will, but I think it's going to build off your thoughts and your life and your ideas.
Okay, sure.
Manish, firstly, thank you, for giving us the time to do this. I'm really excited to chat with you. I've been a big fan of your work. I think I've seen a
Thank
lot of
you.
your short films, and I love your music. I'm a big fan of your music. The Sab Sahi is one of my favorite songs. I often listen
Thanks.
to it, when things are not really great in my life, but it gives me a lot of hope. And I think you are a very talented artist. But yeah, how are you feeling, Manish? How are you like?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on, firstly, and so thank you so much for this warm introduction. Um, I'm really glad that you like my music. I'm feeling good. It's a nice Sunday evening. I'm sitting in Juhu in my house where I live with my flatmate, Navneet, which
Yes.
is us, which is a word that I don't like to use so much. He's a writer and I live with him and my cat Puchki. She's a 8-month-old that we adopted last year. And I'm sipping my rose cinnamon green tea, talking to you on a Sunday night. It's nice. I'm feeling good.
Seems
I'm
like the
excited.
perfect setting for a good conversation.
Yes, I can do a vibe check for you. I have some options. I DMXed my
Oh wow.
tell me what you feel like. This
I-
is oceanic.
wow, I should
Uh,
so get that set up. This is
yeah,
what being in the media industry does, You can change your vibe with a click of a button. I have to
this is
probably have a lot to eat or drink to be able to do that. But we can do it based on the mood of the question.
okay. So for now, let's keep it neutral. We'll jump into it if things get too
Yeah. But Manish, I just want to backtrack, to your I mean you had I know a lot of people have found out about your work through your feature, But I know you've been working on this for a good 5 to 10 years, not just from university, but also from school, because you were always passionate about photography and filmmaking from back then. So,
Mhm.
just to give the viewers a background about who you were as a student growing up, what was Manish like at school? What were some of your interests? Were there any subjects you really enjoyed studying? And were there any things you were naturally inclined to growing up?
I think like my introduction into film, which is what I do commercially, my music is my independent side. Um, I think my interest in film came because of music in the first place. Because when I was in sixth or seventh grade, I have a brother who's elder to me by 6 years. So he was the one who would bring in the American taste, and like he would listen to Backstreet Boys and the All American Rejects and Chris Daughtry and Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit. Along with things that were popular here at the time, which is Jal and Lucky Ali and some Bollywood songs. So he would put about 20 to 30 songs in this like little device that I had, which is like a voice recorder, but you can also feed music into it up to 160 MB, which is not over 30 songs. And I that was my favorite device. Like I would hang out with it, but just taking walks on the road by myself, just listening to music. And I think what music made me do is it kind of helped me imagine. And I feel like one thing that I always kind of felt upset about, that I did not read so much when I was a child, um, which kind of facilitates your imagination, right? Because it kind of like heightens your senses, and you can feel more because you're actively trying to process this information rather than like passively consuming something,
Mm.
um, like watching a film. um, which I'm trying to like cover up now. I have like books lined up with notes on the wall that hey, 1 hour in the morning you can do this. You can catch up. But music was that for me. So every time I would listen to a Linkin Park song or a Breaking Benjamin song, I would imagine these visuals of these people performing in different kind of situations, and music also like introduced this um these concepts of graphs, like in narrative, and in emotion, translated through just sound. And I feel like that kind of got me interested in this aspect, where I would go back and watch music videos for those songs and then see how different they were from my own imagination. It's like how people read a Harry Potter book and then watch a Harry Potter movie. So that was that for me. Um, and then I feel like now that I trace it back, it's a bit corny and a bit cheesy, but I did watch the movie Wake Up Sid, I think in 2008 or 2010,
Right.
and I was really inspired by it. I don't share like a lot of good opinions about Ayan Mukherjee's Brahmastra, but like I have to give him credit that Wake Up Sid made me contact my uncle in the US and say like, hey, you're coming in July, can you get a little digital camera for me?
Mm.
And he did, and I feel like that's where it started. So it is a little bit filmy as well, but um, that was it for me. So I feel like music and movies were always kind of running parallelly.
Mhm.
And up until I joined BMM with you guys, I was only learning music. I was training in Western classical piano and Indian classical vocals. So that was something I thought I want to do for life.
Mhm.
And when I graduated 12th grade, I remember having this conversation with my father that I said, hey, I want to be a pianist.
Mhm.
And this is something that happens at every juncture, right? In 10th grade, you say, hey, you want to try this. And then someone else would say, why don't you do science first and then you can explore? And then
Mhm.
the same conversation happened after 12th, where they said, why don't you kind of finish one secure um, academic program, and then you can move on to kind of further your interest. And they gave like very good examples as well, like Palar Sen from who made Mayari, was a doctor. The singer of Agni was in a very high-paying corporate job, and they moved on to music. Like it's not like something kept them away from it.
Mm,
So that was a great idea, and I think up until that point, apart from my sister, who is also an artist, I do come from a family of doctors, engineers, and chartered accountants.
mm,
So it is a bit at the time it was a bit new to kind of explore a course which nobody in my family had done,
mm,
and BMO was relatively a very new course, right? But it was interesting. Like I saw the syllabus, and I went to KC College. I went to a lot of colleges, and I went to KC College and met our principal, our HOD. Um, and my parents met her as well, and they were like, "Okay, this sounds like something which is like secure and might give them a good degree and like have something to fall back on, but still like give a lot of space and opportunity to do whatever you want."
mm,
And I think like that in BMM, I really like was super lucky to have batchmates such as yourself and a lot of other talented people who are now musicians and photographers and film producers. A lot of seniors who knew what they were doing at the point when we joined filmmaking or just BMM, and we had someone to collaborate with and learn from. So I feel like that's where it kind of gave me a push. Um, Also before that, I was a bit more shy.
mhm,
Uh, like I was like a silent kid, and I wouldn't socialize so much. And the two schools and colleges that I had been to before that were in my same suburb, so I hadn't really gotten out to like see who is out there and like what how they are thinking, what they are thinking about, which schools they come from.
sure.
So my first day in college, I was very emotional,
Yeah.
where I was like, "Oh, this professor is really cool. She speaks great English," which was like already like a huge thing for me because I came from Kilkar College, and Kilkar College has its own perks. So that was awesome for me,
But
and,
it
and
must have been funny because Wake Up Sid was also shot at the college next door, right? You could
yeah,
imagine yourself in the very same situation that that character.
oh, I didn't think about that
Because I
honestly.
remember that scene where they're in the canteen and they jump off those stairs. That's like the common like area for.
That's true. It's a
It's
great
funny
observation.
how life turns around. But before you jump into your college experience, Manish, you mentioned you had some training in Western classical piano and in Indian classical music. One thing I
Mm.
remember about you, Manish, is that when you came for the program, you were already competent in a lot of these skills. For instance, I think you were quite good in music production. You were really good in photography, and even you already had some knowledge about film production. So, how did you learn about these three skills on your own time? Because I don't think a lot of schools, provide you with the training to do that in specific. So, was there like an extended program that you did while you were at school, or how did you go about figuring that out?
I think in my school there were these great internal contests where you would have like a mono acting program, like a group dance competition, and it would be between classes and between batches as well.
Hmm.
So that was an interesting push where you could actually try something that you have not tried before as well. So I would usually participate in the instrumental competition and what do you call it, the solo singing competition and the group singing competition. But then I also like found interest in trying acting for a little bit, uh, which was nice to like just open up, and what it made me do is it made me write a little.
Hmm.
So in the end, now that you think of it, it's all like one sphere, right? Like it's not like there are individual disciplines that never interact with each other. So I feel like school was definitely a good push, and that was a good encouragement as well. Music production is something that I just started learning in the last 3 years when the pandemic hit and there was not much to do. So that is something I'm trying to polish now and like learn from my friends, learn from Suren as well. He's great help to me,
Hmm.
and he always like keeps sending me links and YouTube tutorials and just like long video calls with me to figure out what I want to do with my ideas in my head, like how to manifest it.
Hmm.
So when I joined college, I was more like proficient, I guess would be one way to say it, in playing the piano and singing.
Got it.
But everything else was very new to me at that point as well.
Amazing. Yeah, because I think like I remember because we were in that program for 1 year together and Manish did it for 3 years. For someone that doesn't know about the mass media program, if you had to break it down in a couple of sentences, like what do you learn in the first, second, and third year of a mass media program? And it's also because a lot of young students or young people listening to this interview, they'd be curious about your pathway and your journey, and the fact that there is an option available at the undergraduate level would be quite interesting for a lot of them. So, what was, I mean, how is that course structured, and what did you take out of it at each stage, Manish?
One way to say it would be broadly, if you think about it, it's divided into two respects, which is advertising and journalism.
Mm,
And that's a major, is one way to say it, a major that you can choose in your third year.
got it.
Apart from that, in 3 years, you have about 36 subjects. So it's
Wow.
six subjects a
Yep.
semester. And it takes you through subsets of advertising and journalism, which can deal with branding, copywriting, consumer behavior, economics. Yeah, there are some subjects even about art and design,
Yeah.
which is very important to kind of understand how everything is integrated.
Yeah.
Then, as far as I can remember, one of our most interesting subjects for me, there were three subjects in first, second, and third year, which were film related subjects. The first one was understanding cinema,
Mm,
and the second one was something related to film appreciation as well, where you get to make another movie. And the third one was contemporary issues,
mm,
which was a great blend of journalism and filmmaking, because you're supposed to make a documentary and that's supposed to be your thesis project.
mm,
So they give you about 4 to 5 months to come out with what you think is a contemporary issue in India, and why do you think you need to like talk about it if nobody else is talking about it as much. And it gave you the liberty to go anywhere in India
mm,
and talk to people and talk to lawyers and talk to politicians, and just understand the problem and pose solutions, and just share perspectives fairly in a documentary that you get to spend a lot of time on
mm,
with a team that you build, you can choose to build. So that was great. I feel like we learned a lot in those three projects, especially the last one,
mm,
because you wanted to create something that um, looks good as a film, like it's enjoyable as a film itself, but also makes sense and like also validates its own existence.
for sure.
So that was a very good project.
And what
And
was that film about, Manish? The one that you made in university?
so I was very lucky to get to work on three films actually.
Okay.
When I was in my second year, I worked on a seniors film, which was Gaurav Gandhi's film. He was directing it. It was about modern day imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
So this film was about land acquisition in Gujarat. And in my year, we worked on this documentary about marginalized Adivasis in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, which is um, a national park that's inside the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about the illegal encroachment is the way the government would put it, of these national parks where these Adivasis are kind of sandwiched between the city and the wildlife,
Mm-hmm.
where they have nowhere to go, and every little aspect which concerns rehabilitation and why it is not effective. So that was what I was working on. And in when I graduated, I went back to help Shubham Matre, who was our junior,
Mm-hmm.
to shoot something in Nandurbar, and he was making a documentary with his team about malnutrition in children
Oh,
at the border of Maharashtra and Gujarat,
okay.
which is this like um, thin line in the map that the government does not have access to, and it's a bit confusing because you can't tell which regulation does it fall under.
Mm, I mean, that's amazing because we very often you look at film and you think about stories and characters, but the whole world of documentary filmmaking can shed light on so many important issues that need to be discussed, and the fact that you had the power to do that when you were just learning how to make cinema must have felt so empowering for you as a student because you could actually use your skills to give voice to issues that really needed that voice. And I think, film is one of the most powerful ways to really tell a good story, but also
Yeah,
tell stories that, really need to be heard. So I think it's amazing, Manish, that at that time, you had the skill set to be able to make those projects. What was it like after your time at the mass media course, Manish? Did you jump into working on professional projects directly, or you wanted to do like another course right after and explore other opportunities from there?
I think I kind of did a bunch of things before I knew that film school is something that I want to do right away.
Hmm.
When also to add to the college experience, one very good thing which I think made me learn a lot is the college festivals,
Mm.
which was amazing because we had yearly college festivals, so we would have our own festival and we would participate in about 4 to 5 festivals of Wilson, Xavier's, Nationals, Jahan, and like a couple of other colleges.
And shout out to
So
Blitzkrieg, right?
shout out to Blitzkrieg, the
Yeah.
best in Bachelor of Mastery.
Yeah.
So that was fun to make a lot of movies for those festivals. And when you are organizing your own festival, then you can make like a opening film and a closing
Mm.
film and a promo and whatnot. So that was awesome as well. Coming back to this question, I tried to do a lot of things while I was in the course and then like the year after that as well. A couple of teachers hooked me up on the team for Lakme Fashion Week, where I would basically like go and shoot pictures
Mm.
of Harper's Bazaar, but I did not know that I'm signing up as a paparazzi.
Okay.
So that was a fun gig, and I did one day, and I was like, I don't know if this is something that I want to do in life. And then I went to the lunch buffet, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm gonna come for 5 days.
But
So
yeah, I guess it's overwhelming, right? Because the number of opportunities in the media industry for a film and
that,
professional are so many. If you don't
yeah,
try, and I'm sure it's hard in the first few days because you're new in like a pond of experienced professionals. But I'm really curious to hear other stories, Manish. Like apart from that gig, what were some other gigs that you did?
then I was working as a production assistant on a couple of short films that industry professionals were making, but they did not have the budget for like crew. So I would come in and I worked on a film as an AD and a production assistant on this director Maria Saeed's movie. And she was a London film school graduate as well. And then there was another filmmaker, Siddharth, who was one of the biggest like first ADs in the Indian art industry, and he was making his own film, which was getting produced by Nikhil Bopana, a person from Equinox, which is also a very good production house. So I was working like as like a boy who would run around and get things done, and just even be a runner and like get casting audition videos from Warsaw to Mahim to Warsaw to Mahim, because you would use pen drives then, right? You like Google, this is like internet wasn't like
Right.
so good
Yeah.
then. Like we weren't like really using Google Drives as much as we do now. So I was kind of like a bridge between departments, and I did that for a couple of projects. And I'm really glad that I did that because I kind of got to work as like a assistant in a very small capacity to people who actually do very good work otherwise,
Mm.
when they're on their like full blown film sets.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really nice. I worked on as an AD, just running the slate on different ad shoots as well. And I got to like kind of observe what is happening and how things are functioning on like a very chaotic 18-hour ambitious day when you don't really know how you're gonna shoot 4 ads in a day, but it somehow happens. Film industry, especially the Indian film industry, is like kind of cutthroat and ruthless.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was really nice to spend time on those sets. In the meantime, for money, I also shot a lot of wedding films and I
Mm.
edited a lot of wedding films. And wedding films can be like feature films. Like you, if you have 6 functions from Mehndi to Sangeet to Fairas to reception
Yeah.
and whatnot, it's and each segment is like 20 minutes long. It's like a 2 hour film. And like it was
I mean,
my
just like a side note, it's one of my favorite binge watching experiences. Randomly,
yeah
if I'm in an existential crisis, because they also
yeah
talk about the couple and their story as well, right, Manish? So sometimes when I don't have anything else to do, I just go watch some of these videos. But sorry,
oh
go
yeah,
on.
it's either like very hopeful or very depressing.
It is.
Uh, yeah. So I did a lot of that as well, and I feel like if I look back, that was also a very good experience because in wedding films, you get to use the best budget cameras of the time. So whatever releases, people want that.
Hmm.
And India, it's easy to rent. So the moment a good piece of gear releases or comes out, we have it that we can rent out for similar price of what we kind of rented out the previous version of the gear for.
Oh wow.
So in wedding films, that was great that you can like test like different cameras. Even if you don't need it for a particular shoot, you want to try it out. So you talk to the vendor and you be like, hey, can I try this for the shoot?
Mhm.
So that was a good experience to kind of understand technology better and even understand different kind of systems that support this technology, like different stabilization systems and gimbals that support cameras, and what kind of an effect you would use for which segment, um, and a little bit of lighting, but most importantly, shooting emotion because that's what a wedding film is, right? You're documenting your emotion, and you wish that you hope that you don't miss out on all the you mine all the gold.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. That it's basically a documentary, and you have to be like really alert, and it's a lot of planning actually involved in wedding filmmaking. It's insane.
Mm.
People have like conferences and group discussions as to like how to capture it effectively, and there are floor plans where people are given responsibilities that hey, you get the groom and the groom's father and mother, and you're
Wow.
with the bride and you're with the groom's relatives. So there are spots drawn out for blocking essentially. This is where the peras are gonna be, and you've got little chicken heads point in the direction they're supposed to shoot in. So that was very interesting. And along that process, I realized that I don't want to kind of put myself in a box and say, hey, I want to just do cinematography or I want to do editing. I wanted to like be known as a filmmaker, but at the time, I thought my interests lie most in the visual aspect of storytelling and my interests and my strengths. So it was it was a good option for me to join a film school specializing in cinematography.
Mm.
And I found the right school for me, which was New York Film Academy. And I joined that in 2017.
Wow.
And I studied there for a year, and then I got my OPT for another year.
Wow.
So I spent 2.5 years there, close to 3 years there. And
Yep. And I really want to break down this experience. I saw some of the films you made, Manish, at that time. I saw Broken Record, Umami.
college,
I really like how, because I'm thinking about your visual journey from your early short films, and also saw your ad films, which I know a lot of them were really recent.
mm,
But one thing about your visual language is it's very strong on color, and I've noticed that coming out in more of your recent projects. And I know being a colorist is actually like a specified role in film projects, but your sense of color, and I'm saying this because I do watch a lot of films. I found a very strong visual style and aesthetic that is unique to you coming out in your short films that I could also see emerging in your ad films and your feature film project. In terms of how you set up visuals, like in some of your ads, what I'd notice is you have a very human-like filmmaking style because your camera is actually moving with the character. Like
Mhm.
the character is talking, and I noticed your camera is almost like moving with them. So it doesn't seem like it's a shot, but it seems like it's another human talking to that character. So I'm really curious how you developed. I mean, what are these nuances in filmmaking called, or like, because the jump for you was from Mumbai again. Maybe we can talk about this a little later, but also being in Mumbai, I think, is such an amazing experience, right? The amount of exposure you get. And I know when you come back to your journey of working on the feature film, you can talk about that. But what was the jump like for you from, media school in Mumbai to film school in New York? And how was that course structured? And what did you take from it?
Um, when I moved to New York, it was very welcoming.
Yeah.
The city was great. The city was very welcoming. I had an option to go between New York and Los Angeles, and I felt like New York is more my vibe. I come
Mm.
from Bombay. Right? I'm used to just taking a train and heading to some place and reach the hour. Right? I was fascinated by the idea that this is the city like mine on steroids. So so I really enjoyed New York. I had less of a culture shock going to New York Film Academy. I think I had a bigger culture shock going to Casey College. Being a boy from within and like meeting people from town and Juhu and Bangalore and all of
You're a Jew boy yourself now.
I'm a Jew boy myself now. It's technically Warsaw, but I like to call it Upper Juhu.
Okay. Sorry.
So so that was nice because people came from all over the world and people of all ages as well.
Hmm.
So that was a humbling experience because I think I was 22 or 23 at the time, and
Yeah.
then I had one person who was turning 18,
Wow.
and this person was from America, and then there was another person from Hungary,
Mm.
and he was turning 40,
Nice.
and there were people who came from a big uh, prior filmmaking experience, working in their respective industries,
Got it.
and someone like me who has had like a taste of it, but obviously easier to like figure it out, like learn and find out what he wants to do.
Mm.
And also people who had like no idea what they were signing up for. Like to be
Mm.
honest, that was happening as well, and everyone kind of flourished in their own direction and in their own liking.
Nice.
I think there's a wedding outside, so it's a bit
No, no,
noisy.
don't worry.
But
I will, all the additional sounds. I've gotten reasonably good at editing, so I can, like,
nice.
but
Um,
but Manish, like if you had to mention specific courses, because it was like a conservatory in filmmaking, right?
right.
Like, were there any specific courses and professors that really, changed your thinking? Because I'm sure
Yeah.
you didn't have such a specialized study in BMM, right? So, um,
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's a great question because what specialization is I got to know when I joined this course. There were subjects that were kind of bifurcated into technical and creative.
mm,
So we had like a lot of technical subjects like grip and electric, which is understanding lighting and gear to support lighting and how to support camera systems and rig it to cars and rig it to your hand so that whenever you move your hand, the camera moves with you.
yeah.
And just different forms of lighting and how to shape light, cut light, and all of the little stuff that you need to know about. And we had like camera lectures where we would understand film cameras and celluloid and difference between celluloid and digital. Um, and the things that we are working with today, compatibilities between cameras and lenses.
Mm,
So that was like one part of the training,
mm,
and the other part was creative and more philosophy.
mm,
So we had one subject called history of cinema where we would watch one movie in a group,
mm,
and this movie does not have to be too old either. It can be Blade Runner from the 80s or Blade Runner that was made today. And we would watch this film and we would write about it for half an hour.
Wow.
And in the end, everybody would kind of read what they wrote. And the professor would point out like interesting things that everybody observed, and we would discuss it out loud. So that was super interesting because I would find something that you discovered but I didn't notice, and the other way around because everybody's perspective about one thing is different.
For sure.
Um, so I feel like that was one of my favorite subjects because that's where I learned to kind of dissect and understand what it is that you like about the thing that you like,
Mm,
which is one of the most beautiful things that you can apply to anything in life.
mm,
If uh, if if you make me um, pasta for dinner, we can have a conversation about it. That it's interesting. Like the tomato is like a little more tangy. I feel like you put like less garlic this time, last time. The parmesan is like shaved instead of shredded. So those things kind of add value to life,
mm,
so it was discussing these things that I started developing appreciation for things in general, not just as a filmmaker, but just as a person, as a human being.
mm,
So I would try to apply that to songs when I would listen to songs. And the beautiful thing about dissecting is you kind of realize what you like and what works as well. You
mm,
know, so if you make yourself an omelet the next day, you know how you like your omelets and you know how you like your coffee. So that was one interesting subject, and there was another one called cinematographer's craft,
mm,
where this subject was solely focusing on visual storytelling, as my uh, professor would say. And here we would discuss motivations for camera movement
mm.
and the purpose of and the reason for a character standing where they are standing in the first
Mm.
place,
Okay.
and the relationship to camera. So when the camera would move, when the camera would stay still, uh, when the camera should be completely static, when the camera should have like a little bit of a breathe,
Mm,
just different eye lines that mean different things. How to make something look personal, how to make something look impersonal,
mm,
how to make it feel like a character is isolated or feels out of place.
mm,
Uh, so we would discuss a lot of things that just framing, composition, lighting, placing of performers, um, just eye lines where they would look at would kind of like make things feel different.
mm,
Uh, and one interesting thing that my professor would say all the time is that uh, nothing falls off the truck,
mm,
you know, and it's a lot of times it's not an accident. Most of the times it's not an accident. It
mm,
was someone's creative choice that the person wore this shade of mint green and sitting in this backdrop, signifying something that it's a combination of all these things
yeah.
that filmmakers, not just the director, but a cinematographer, a costume designer, and production designer, are feeding you elements,
Yeah.
and it's graded a certain way to make you feel a certain way.
Wow.
Uh, in with the help of music and sound design.
Yeah.
So it's a very highly fabricated experience and it doesn't just fall off the truck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was very interesting to learn these two subjects where you would again find out what it is that you like about the thing that you like. Do you like the warmth in the room? Do you like the contrast between the person and in respect to their surroundings?
Mm,
Uh, do you like it that one person is against the window, so you just see them in a silhouette,
mm,
but that also kind of says something about um, their um, their part of the story that they are in the dark, so metaphorically you see them in the dark. So it's these little things that we would discuss and jam over. And so that was one part of the training as well. So you had technical subjects, you have more creative and philosophical subjects, and in the middle of it, we had these production workshops
mm,
where every month we would have one workshop where everyone in the room, which is like 10 people in one batch, are supposed to make a particular movie.
Hmm.
And these roles are kind of interchangeable.
Okay.
So let's say for one production workshop, if you're in my class, let's say if I'm the director and I pick you as my cinematographer,
Hmm.
someone else is playing the lighting technician, another person is playing the camera assistant, another
Got it.
person is on the dolly, and in the next production workshop, this whole thing will shuffle.
So you get an idea of each role in that production
Exactly.
experience.
So in if everyone gets to kind of play one role in every department
Hmm.
for every production workshop, which was very beautifully designed because you once you are uh, kind of playing the role, you start to understand time, and you also understand you're also empathetic to the
Hmm.
work that other people are doing, right? So let's say I never worked as a camera assistant
Yeah.
or a focus puller or a dolly operator or a lighting technician, and I just like kind of order my crew around that, hey, I have 5 minutes, I want it ready. Whereas I should be the one who's knowing that, okay, something to rig, something like this to rig is gonna take 15, something to
Hmm.
safety is gonna take 10, and like it's a challenging shot, so this person is gonna lose focus in 15 takes. That's I need to do something to kind of help them out to get it right. Like I
Got
need
it.
to make it. So that was amazing because we kind of got to play different roles in these workshops,
Hmm.
but also we had to do 5 projects each as a director and cinematographer.
Got it.
So we could still choose to have another person be the director,
Hmm.
but since it's a cinematography program, you are the cinematographer for your project, and I will have crew, which is my teammates, my classmates,
Hmm.
and I will work on 5 of their films as well, working
Oh,
in
okay.
department.
Okay.
So basically, it keeps you really really busy for the whole year. Like there's really no time to like do anything else.
I can't
Um,
imagine how you fit all of this in 1 year. I'm just thinking it must have been such an intense course, right, Manish?
yeah, it was very intense, and when you spend so much time day and night with these people, you kind of figure out the best and worst, and you kind of understand the realities of life. That hey, like on the 18th hour, people, everyone's a human being, right? Like so, you need to like appreciate um, those factors as well, and take into account what you can do to have this ship sail better.
Yeah. That's amazing. You did a great job, summarizing that whole year in terms of what it is for someone that's learning films, and I know like right after that project, Manish, you had several professional experiences, not only in the US but also in India. I think you have such a large portfolio of ad films, and I think
Mm.
your ad films also say a lot about how you, as a professional, want to tell stories, but also tell stories of brands. So I'm curious about your, because once you have this experience in the conservatory, like how did that change your approach to making ads and films? Because I think I noticed that after your course, I just see a huge jump in terms of how you produce those final projects. I feel like it's very clean, it's very professional. The editing, the voice, all of these other factors that I feel you must have learned in the course suddenly
Mm.
emerge in your projects. Whether it's the Beko ad, the Volkswagen ad with Ali Fazal, or the short films, but also your feature film. So can you tell me your experience working on some of these projects, Manish? Maybe two or three of them that really, defined your professional outlook?
Yeah, sure. I would like to start by saying I really love shooting at films.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I get to do that. Um, Primarily because I get to work with a lot of people
Hmm.
because of that, and I enjoy long format a lot as well.
Yep.
That's something that comes along not as easily because you need to have like a or work for someone to trust you for like a 90 day schedule in the first place.
Yep.
So art filmmaking is a great platform to meet new people and meet like really really good people.
Yep.
from the industry who's doing different things, and also get to try a lot of things which you might feel nervous to try when you jump on a long format directly, and you did not have like a playground to see what works, what doesn't work,
Yeah.
what uh, what is your taste like, and I feel like ads give a really good platform for that. Also because every day is a new day.
Yeah.
So in 2 days I don't have to worry about this. The very interesting thing about freelance projects like this as well is that really minimizes the politics that an ecosystem can get involved in the first place.
Okay.
Because tomorrow, once we're done with our 18-hour shift at max, I really don't have to like come back to it. Um, in terms of what was going on, like any kind of baggage is like kind of completely left behind.
Yeah.
So it's a very good platform where you dive in and you're completely focused and you know that this is what I want to do,
Correct.
and I have like a week to prep for it, and you can really like at that point it's up to you how much you want to prep for it. It's also very interesting. Like you can use all the tools available right now that are just like in your iPhone, where you can make your phone work as like a simulator for what your camera is going to shoot like. So
Mm.
there are apps that will like give you the exact same frame with the guidelines and the aspect ratios, and you just have to dial in which camera and which lens you're shooting with,
Oh,
um, and it will give you that. So I don't really have to like carry like a 15 kg camera and kind of find my frame. I can just find my frame on an iPhone and make everybody's lives easier.
interesting.
Uh, and when you do something like that, it also kind of so this is a good communication factor between different departments that they know what we're doing and what we're testing.
Hmm.
So wow, they're really going at it.
Don't worry about the sound, Manish. It's good. I think it adds another layer.
It's like that Ekta Kapoor serial
Yeah,
kind of.
you're building up to a scene,
Yeah. So when I got back to India, luckily a couple of people from BMM had turned um, ad film producers. So they gave me certain projects where I got to try a couple of different things, and then it's like a little bit of a cycle where you put out something and then people see it and then they like it, and then you get a call and then you keep putting out more things and you trying to get better projects.
got it.
So that's a cycle that we'll always be in. And, there are always like more steps that you climb up. That hey, you want to work with these production houses, and work on uh, ad films that are of a certain budget, and
Yeah.
um, have these directors and production designers, because it's all a circle.
Yeah.
Your film, like what you do, like just looks 10 times better if if the set looks amazing and it's dressed well, and the director has these ideas that kind of give you scope to push yourself as well,
For
and try
sure.
out new things. So that was shooting ads for me, and I think I always keep shooting ads.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
hope you do, because I think you've made an art form out of it, Manish. I think just to see all your ads, it tells a really powerful story. I feel like you also humanize the brands, and I think I saw that in a lot of for instance, and I know there are a lot of people involved in creating an ad. It's not just the person behind the camera, but also the director, the dialogue writer, the costume person, the set person. So I feel like there are so many people, but through your camera work, I think you bring a lot of life to these characters, So I think that's really not very easy to do, and I feel like you're doing a great job with that. But I recently saw the trailer of your first feature, Middle Class Love. It's a wonderful story. I will be linking all of Manish's short films and his trailers in the show notes. So do take some time to also review his amazing website where he's documented all his projects in a very organized and visually aesthetic way. But yeah, I mean, Ratna Sinha, she was already known in the industry. She made a very popular film, Shadi Mein Zarur Aana,
yeah.
which was accepted and widely watched by a lot of people. So how is it working on such a large project with so much talent and so much money involved? And being the I know you were there were two people involved in cinematography in this project, right?
Yeah.
I think it was you and Samir, Manish.
Yes.
So,
So the way this project came along to me is this movie directed by Ratna Sinha and produced by Anubhav Sinha and Banaras Media Works. They started shooting it a couple of years ago, I think in 2019, in January,
okay.
and they were shooting it with this really amazing DP Sameer Arya, who was the DP for Koi Mil Gaya as well, and a lot of amazing movies shoot out at Badala. So he's a very big senior DP, and they shot one part of the schedule in Dehradun and Mussoorie.
Hmm.
So it's a story about a young boy going to a fancy college in and he wants to like take a leap from him being middle class to achieve things that he's told that he cannot achieve, right? Like uh, so that was the premise of the story, and COVID lockdown happened in the middle of in March 2019.
Hmm.
So there was not much happening in the industry for like a whole year.
Yeah.
And at that point, when they started resuming the shoot, Mr. Sameer could not make it because of his because of the other commitments. So
Oh,
um, props to the director, Ratna ma'am, that she put trust in someone like me who's like a much younger creative. Um, and I got the project because of my ads,
got
because
it.
of a producer that I shot a couple of ads with, was
Mhm.
also line producing this film. So he said, "Why don't you just like go in and do a meeting with them and then see if you're jamming?" So I went into her office and then I showed her a couple of ads that I had done with this producer and otherwise as well. And she really enjoyed the color contrast and the stark, stylized approach that I would bring to the table.
Mhm.
So she really liked it, and it was amazing. She didn't even think about it for like a couple of hours. She just like sent me the script in the evening and said,
Wow.
"Hey, like do it, please read it and just call me back." And I got the project, and it was very nice that I got to work with her because she also pushed me to just be me and do me.
Got it.
One lucky part about uh, sharing this credit with another DP was that the scenes that he shot were more exterior in Dehradun and Mussoorie. And
Mhm.
the scenes that were left to shoot, which is the second schedule, were different environments and scenes in a college, scenes in a pub, the finale climactic sequence, which is supposed to be this fun fair. So it was nice that I wasn't like bound to an aesthetic that I needed to like maintain consistency and push back.
Interesting.
But she really like sometimes on set she would come up to me and said, "Whatever we saw in your cinematography showing, let's have that." And then I would
Wow.
be like, "Okay, like I know what to do now. Like I know
They,
what you like now, and then let's do that."
but they
So
trusted you, right? And they believed in
yeah,
your potential. I think that's so important.
exactly. And a lot of like positive encouragement as well, when because that is something that does not always happen in an industry where you want people to be efficient. So you don't really like tell them that you're happy with what you're doing. But in this case, you would always like let me know that, hey, this is amazing. So I would know when it's not amazing,
Yeah.
when I would not hear that, right? So that's like a very nice, like positive way of like kind of like pushing you to do better, and you kind of gauge what people like and not liking by by the response.
Yeah.
So that was really nice, and because of my art film experience, I kind of like knew where I like my hues and my contrast curves in a way to say, and how I like to place my characters and what kind of movement do I like for certain scenes.
Mm.
So, but this was very different because this was for me a 20-day shooting schedule,
Mhm.
which meant that I had to like go see locations and do technical scouts for another month and a half.
Okay.
So this was working every day as opposed to my actual life where I would work for like a couple of days and then sit around and like play with my cat and listen to music. days, so I get time to like uh, kind of revive myself, right? But this was like a schedule that would just like keep going on,
Yeah.
uh, and you're shooting like many pages a day, so it's also very challenging to like kind of keep track of um, what scenes are you approaching in which manner, and what gear do you need for which scenes and what day. So like it's a lot of like creative, managerial, logistic work to be mindful of. Also, understanding what the director wants, and
True.
also understanding if it's well within the budget of our production.
True.
Because a movie can be made for any amount of rupees, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And there's also
so
time schedules and talent that you have to align with. But I like what I noticed, Manish, is that you did the same thing so many times when you were an AD after your BMM course, in so many film productions, in your
right,
ad projects, in your short films and film projects. I think you were just a close observer and a student. So I feel like in a lot of ways you came full circle from being someone that was an observer and just a participant to actually leading and co-creating that space. I think you worked really hard to get to that point, and because I'm hearing your story chronologically, I just
right.
see how you got to that point. It's really inspiring for sure.
I think it's about learning. It's of course an ever-going process. Um, I feel like even after film school, I feel like it's really important to kind of keep track of what is happening, and I think we are in disciplines which are ever evolving as well.
For sure.
And every month, something that worked last month goes obsolete.
Yep.
And that works with both taste um, and technical gear. Like the
Correct.
camera I was shooting with last month is like it's no longer required because we have something way superior, giving like a much better dynamic range and all those fancy things. And like you especially see it a lot in color grading.
Mm,
Uh, like let's say 2 years ago, if you see any Indian advertisement, they were all uh, with this muted feeling, right? Like look up a little bit desaturated. That was in.
mm,
And the next year, viscose effect got very popular, which was kind of like this faded film effect.
mm,
Uh, and last year it was more like stark, contrasty, just like a crisp image which looks like really balanced and like has like very dark blacks and like white highlights, and everything is in its place. And like
mm,
now this year it's going back more to like the olden celluloid days of filmmaking where
mm.
there was like a bit of film texture and a lot of like grain on the image and things would look fuzzy and imperfect, and that's like more popular now. Um, so I feel like it's nice that there are so many resources now available, paid and free online
Yeah.
that people can always like check out.
Right.
And one thing that I really enjoy doing is attending master classes. Um, and I realized like when I tried that a couple of years ago, I did not find the right classes for me because I felt like it was more talking and less learning for me.
Got it.
Like more hearing and less learning for me. But when it came to like more technical courses, it was interesting for me to like apply, like make good use of my time.
So you have to be like a perpetual learner in that sense, right,
I
Manish?
think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
that's amazing. Manish, and I want to be respectful of time. This last final question before I let you go, and I can speak to you for 2 or 3 hours because I really wanted to know your thoughts on every project. And but Manish, one thing I always appreciated about friends or colleagues that went to film school is I'm so fascinated by how you watch films. I have another friend that is really passionate about films and spends some time studying films, and the way that person watches films is so different from the way I watch it. After I watch the film, I will normally say I liked the story and I liked this part about the story, but then that person would have comments about editing, about the way the set was designed, about the way the sound was edited, about the editing of the film. So can you tell me about one film that really stayed with you, and how would you go about watching that film in terms of how can like a lay person uh, like how do we break down different elements of a film? How do we watch a film based on one film that really inspired you? You know?
Um, Honestly, so many films come to mind.
Yeah.
'Cause this conversation can go.
Maybe a recent film that you
Uh,
saw that you can maybe break down for us in terms of like, because I will always focus on the story as someone that doesn't understand the craft as much. But what would you
right.
see in that film? I'm curious.
I think when it comes to breaking down, so I have two examples here.
Yeah.
I would give a recent example, which is a more like technical example, talking about the question that you have listed to. Is this movie that I saw called Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Hmm.
It's made by Daniel and Daniel. Have you seen it yet?
I loved it. Yeah, it was
I
amazing.
love it.
It
I
was.
saw it so many times.
I
And
mean, it blew
that
my
is
mind because it was just such a new concept. I was just so intrigued.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's a multiverse concept in the context of someone who's doing something as simple as laundry and taxes, right?
Yeah.
So it's a brilliant story in the first place, but you can see that there is so much filmmaking in this movie, and it's almost like two kids just doing what they used to do when they were children and making like short films by their own way. So
Yeah.
this is like a very good example of a very hands-on movie where these two directors kind of have done a lot of these things with practical effects. There are not too many VFX shots, to be honest. There are a lot, but it's not like a huge VFX team that you see in Marvel, where the credit list is just like unrolling for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This movie's VFX was done by 5 people,
Oh.
and some additional VFX was done by the directors as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a very good example of how people kind of like came together as a team,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it also shows how much control they had over the project because all of these different departments were so tight.
Correct.
Um, and I feel like this is one very good movie where you can really kind of tell good cinematography and good editing and good sound design and music um, and and good special effects and action.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this movie is a very good case study because I have been studying about this as well. If you go to YouTube, there are like 20 really good behind the scenes videos and talks with the directors, actors, and technicians from the movie where they kind of break down what went into these particular scenes
Mm-hmm.
uh, and how they managed to achieve certain effects and certain transitions, even certain storytelling styles. How one character kind of played like four different personas, acted like squirrel, acted like wolf, and acted like a jaguar in different scenes.
Yeah.
How the action coordinators kind of help stitch the movie together, taking inspiration from like old Asian action movies. They talk a lot about that as well. Um, and how costume plays a really good role when it comes to the different characters played by the daughter.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
where it's just like so glamorous and so chaotic.
Yeah.
And they talk a lot about that as well and what it adds to different scenes and different moments.
True. Yeah.
So so just like I was already blown away by the movie, and then I made all my parents and my uncle and aunt watch it, and then I saw it again myself, and then it just released in the theaters in India. So I
Yeah.
saw it on torrent, torrent. It's really good. Uh, uh, but now it's in theaters, and I watched it again. And every time I see like a new clipping of how they did certain things, I have like uh, um, a bigger appreciation for how they managed to do certain things.
That's
That
amazing.
is one, but another thing that I wanted to talk about is a couple of years ago when I was in New York, I saw this movie um, called Mother. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I've
it's by the
seen it.
same
The
director, Black Swan,
like
Aronofsky,
Arnofsky, and it was Jennifer. What's her
Jennifer
name?
Lawrence, and Harvey
Jen-
Keitel.
Jennifer Lawrence. I loved it. I saw it at Mami at the Regal
Oh,
Cinema when I think he had
oh,
come down
wow.
here. I think he
Yeah,
came down to talk about the film. I think there was that here. It was amazing.
that's amazing that you watched it.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that film also changed how I consume films,
Mm,
how I looked at movie making, because that is a film that just flowed, right? And one of the things that are special about anything that you do is that it's it's more immersive the more invisible it is.
mm,
Right?
mm,
So like if you see a movie like Whiplash, it's beautifully edited.
yeah.
Or even if you see something that's on the other end of the spectrum, where if you see Birdman, which is a whole movie that looks like one single
I
shot.
know Birdman was shot in one like extended like
Right.
cameras. Yeah, I was like,
Exactly. So these two films, like it's it's excellent. The editing is excellent because in one movie it's so invisible, and in the other movie there is so much happening that you kind of forget that someone sat on a desk and pushed a couple of buttons because you're so immersed in it.
true.
And the same thing goes for good cinematography and good production design. Like it just has to be enough and not like scream out for attention because the idea is to kind of just make you feel like you're part of this world as well.
Mm,
And that's what the film Mother did for me. And I was watching this film and I finished watching this whole film and I came out of the theater feeling uncomfortable because so much happened in front of my eyes and there were parts of the movie at the time which I could not comprehend. Um, and I was a little bit frustrated as well that it's like I thought I knew what was going on, but there are some missing links.
mm-hmm,
And I finally understood that yes, the thing is I have to be comfortable consuming a piece of art and being okay with not understanding it.
mm,
But just it's like when you go to a museum and then you see a painting by someone who made it like a couple of centuries ago, right?
yeah.
And there is so much that can be spoken about that painting, and you can look at it with the context of what happened at the time in the history and in the political scenario and the cultural scenario, and be be appreciative of the details that went into it, or you
Mm-hmm,
can still stare at the painting and still be mesmerized by it because of the energy that is translated from
yeah,
from a piece of canvas, right?
yeah.
And and once I kind of like gave myself that liberty to like ease down and be okay with watching something and not understanding something completely but still enjoying it.
Mm-hmm,
And the beautiful part about that is you want to come back to it to kind of dig in further and read about it, to like understand different philosophies that went into it.
yeah.
The director's philosophy, the critic's philosophy, the audience who watched their philosophy. That's what makes it more special as well, and that's something that is super special about all Christopher Nolan movies as well,
Yeah,
where you enjoy the movie and you know that you're not the smartest person on the planet, but the good part is that you don't have to be.
sure.
That this piece of art was not designed to make you feel uh, any lesser, but
Yeah,
it was designed to make you feel good
yeah.
and leave you with enough questions that you can come back to and discuss and talk about and dissect and see what it is that you like and what you think that you like.
Yeah, and it makes you feel and feel more human at the end of the day, right? Manish, it shows
Yeah,
you so many different ways of what it means to be human. And I think I completely agree with you. Sometimes you watch a film for the second time and you have more life experiences and you see something that you didn't see the first time. I think that's
exactly.
powerful that films can do that in such a engaging way. But Manish, I don't know where 1 hour passed. I think 1 hour, 10 minutes already just went by, and
It's
just talking
fun.
to you. Yeah, so this was amazing. I really like listening to you talk about films, Manish. I would be so interested in you, sharing your thoughts about different films. Like the way you broke down Mother and the way you broke down Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think you have so much knowledge about filmmaking that a layperson like me, I think some of the things you said I was not able to notice. I'd love to see, like you sharing your thoughts about some of these films. But most importantly, I'm so excited about all the features and ad films and the work and the music. Please do produce more music, Manish.
Yes,
You know,
you're on
your
the
your listeners. I after listening to Sab Sahi, I thought this is the next. This is going to be the next breakout voice when I heard you. Saying
Thank you
that,
so much.
Manish. So please do produce more music. I'm a big fan. I've made a lot of my friends listen to that, and even the way you created five versions of yourself, like a little
A
multiverse universe yourself over there.
lot of people argued with that.
Yeah. But Manish, again, I for the listeners, I will be linking Manish's website. If you are interested in producing or working on a project with him, do reach out to him on his website, which I will also link his email ID on his website over here. But do watch Manish's films. Firstly, Middle Class Love. It is going to come out in a theater close to you very soon, and all his amazing ad films too. But Manish, any final words before we come to an end?
Oh, thank you for doing this. It was so nice to talk to you, and I hope to see you in Bombay, or if I come to the other side of the world. I would love to hang out and talk more.
That would be amazing, Manish. I'm just going to, again, listeners, please make sure you reach out to Manish on his website, but watch his films, and that's the best way to really understand his work. And until next time, keep learning. Stay tuned for more such episodes and more wonderful stories from this show.